over a period of about 60 years from 1760, the establishment introduced these acts called the Enclosure Acts. And what those acts were introduced to do was to basically uproot people from a relationship to living on the land and deriving the food they needed and the very basics of their subsistence from planting food and eating from the land. And so the reason why those Enclosure Acts came in was because at the same time there were these new smaller layers of society, elite layers that had lots of money and wanted to invest that money with new technologies that came in, and they could now produce things more efficiently, and applying those technologies meant that they needed more land, right? You wanted to more bang for buck, right? They wanted to deploy new tech, needed lots of land to do that. And what happens in that time is that in order to create people who can do that work and work on those new farms, the state takes people off the land. That's what the Enclosure Acts do. They reduce people to not being able to live on land and therefore only being able to sell their labour to survive. And so they leave all the rural areas and they flock to cities in search of work. And what happens is, because of the steps forward in new technologies in that time, you needed less labour. And so there was way too many people for the amount of work that was available. And then you had people giving the work also not paying enough. So if you did get work, you were in a highly exploited position. So these are huge changes happening. When crime is introduced, the concept of crime, it is a complete construct in this period, because it is laying over all of these big economic changes that is creating and displacing so many people, and it tries to mould them into more compliant people, so they stop people from resisting. And the system finds a way to do with the leftovers, people who are getting in the way of new production, the way the economy is functioning now. So crime is a construction of the time, because people didn't just sit back and accept that they were removed from land, that they were unable to get decent work, earn enough. Like they didn't sit back and accept it. Like they kept asserting their rights to be on the land. So they'd keep doing what they'd been doing for hundreds of years, which was poaching animals that they had access to for hundreds of years. But what the empire did was introduce laws that said that was now illegal, and a whole raft of very straightforward human responses to these times were now deemed illegal. So someone's right to protest or resist against those processes were inserted into new acts, criminal acts. Alongside those laws, you had the creation of a huge apparatus of discipline and control through prisons, and the expansion of the prison system as an apparatus of controlling people is a key part of understanding the rise or the creation of Australia as a big colony, or the migration of the empire to Australia. Because what was happening at these times is you had the prisons were overflowing with dissidents, with people who were the undesirables who couldn't find work in this new industrial capitalist system. And that's, I think it's in understanding the construction of crime, modern crime as we understand it today, is really intimately linked with understanding Australia and why it exists. The acts that criminalised everyday people who were trying to survive, including by resisting to survive, blurred political dissidents with common criminals who stole to survive and feed their families, for instance. So because of that blurring, then we should, I think, from the vantage point of this many hundreds of years on, be able to look back at that time and say, well, how do we look at that time? How do we understand it? And not just through the very, I think, narrow definition of what is considered a overtly straightforward political act. And also there is the fact that the process of being, even for less conscious, say, criminals who were tried by the state and sent to Australia in chains, actually the process of having the sledgehammer come down on you, this iron fist, and being given a sentence basically worse than death, was an incredibly radicalizing experience for these people too. So that experience, finding themselves, on a ship with a bunch of others, some of whom were conscious political activists, I think means that we can't take it in a snapshot. These are people who their minds are changing and growing and evolving over time, and quite often, if they weren't tried as political dissidents in the homeland, when they came to Australia, they actually developed political consciousness and worked with people on the ground to build movements here.